It was interesting, even in reading the beginning of Good Energy, you wrote about the case of Sophia, who you performed surgery on. And as soon as she got out of surgery, I believe she said, "You saved my life." Right. And it wasn't even probably a few minutes. And you went on to write that um, I didn't feel proud. At best, I felt I relieved the downstream symptoms, but I had done absolutely nothing to cure the underlying dynamics.
Yeah.
So there you were saying, I didn't do much, yet the patient said, "Hey, you saved my life." What do you think it is on the patient side that kind of said you gave all these stats, we're sicker than ever, we're spending more money, but yet you do see patients that say, "You saved my life, thank you," even though they'll probably come back with something
Mm,
worse very soon.
mm. Yeah, I think that we have on every level, even in the way that we have sort of trained patients to think about their body and think about the disease, we've trained people to see an intervention based model of healthcare as really the pinnacle, the gold standard. And so, because the system is designed that way to really put these heavy duty interventions on a pedestal, of course that's what patients are going to want and ask for because we're all asleep. We're all asleep at the wheel here. And so um we've done a lot, I think, to actually honestly train patients to accept and desire and be dependent on this model that is fundamentally, when it comes to chronic disease, is abjectly failing them.
Mhm.
The more medications we're prescribing to them for chronic disease, the more the rates of these diseases increase. So it's clearly not working. And yet we have created a system in which people are dependent on it, and then divorced people from a sense of their own innate empowerment in being the CEO of their health and being the owner of their health. And I think a lot of it is really by design. You look at the way that like health records and access to our own data is structured. And in many ways, we actually keep the patients from their own data, and we keep the patients, we make it very difficult to even access your own health information. And we say, it's really complicated and you need a doctor to interpret this. It actually could be dangerous if you have too much of your own information. And my message in this book is it's actually not that complicated. It's actually quite simple to understand your own biomarkers and understand the core physiology that's leading to most disease in the United States. And we all should understand that. It is our own bodies. And so there's definitely this sort of paternalistic, separatist environment in healthcare that I think infantilizes patients and makes them codependent, on the system. We also do something really, I think, quite dark in healthcare, which is in the West, which is we really weaponize, I think, the fear of death against patients. In so many other cultures in the world, I would say Eastern traditions, more indigenous, native cultures, there's so much more of a curiosity and an engagement with the concept of death. You read Chinese poetry or and you see people really grappling with these themes. You look at the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Lao Tzu, all these other traditions, and everyone's sort of grappling with this. In the United States, we are petrified of death. We don't talk about it. It's
Mhm.
very scary. We have a very binary view of life and death. You're a body that's alive, and then you're a body that's dead. We don't see the human body for what it is, which is actually this miraculous evolving process. We're just like this swarm of energy and matter that's constantly sort of evolving throughout our lives. And what's beautiful about that, and really understanding what the body really is on that energetic molecular level, is that we realize that because we are this incredible dynamic entity, there's so much we can do to improve it because we're not a static thing. And every time we eat, healthy food, that gets incorporated into this structure and builds a healthier body. But so we've got this very sort of limited Western binary view of the body, life and death, separate from other things. And then the healthcare system, what they do is they really engender that fear. So it's like, if you don't get this surgery, if you don't take this pill,
Mhm.
you just might die. And and I think there's something really actually deeper and sort of despiritualized about the way that we're approaching healthcare um, that uh, that creates this sense of disempowerment in
Mhm.
people. I think when we actually address these things, we examine some of these deeper things around death and spirituality. What actually happens is in that acceptance of sort of, the realities of our life and curiosity with it, it actually helps us approach health and healthcare from a place of more abundance and reality that makes us more empowered consumers because there's not this little, carrot being hung over the patient's head that is such a grip. And, I think I saw it very clearly. I think when I was deciding to become a surgeon after my fourth year of medical school, as a fourth year medical student, you basically are like picking from 42 medical subspecialties about what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And surgery is definitely glorified so much more over these medical specialties because it's that intervention base, it's that top of the totem pole, top pyramid. And I remember thinking like, surgeons were heroes because they would just dramatically go in there and cure disease and fix disease. And if you think in your head, in your mind's eye of like, who is the most heroic kind of type of doctor, I think a lot of who would be like a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon, the crack in the chest, getting the bone saw out, redoing the heart. And what I realized as I kind of went through my training was that, a heart surgeon, fundamentally what they're doing is they're kind of doing like a plumbing rearrangement of blood flow. So if you have coronary artery disease and there's a blockage, these huge surgeries that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and the patient's in the hospital for days or weeks after surgery, it's just rearranging the blood flow. It's literally creating a new path of blood for blood to flow around a blockage that's caused by metabolic dysfunction. And then you look at someone in the hospital like a nutritionist. And there's just no comparison in how people would think about a heart surgeon or nutritionist. The heart surgeon's a hero. Nutrition is kind of an afterthought. It's wimpy. But what's incredible is that the nutritionist, if the patient actually follows what a good nutritionist is talking about, like a true functional nutritionist, that patient has the potential to reverse their heart disease, to reverse the plaques in their heart, to actually totally change the physiology of the body and be able to live so much longer and probably avoid several other diseases. So the surgeon's the hero. The nutrition approach is the wimpy approach. And that is really the crux of the problem is that if you take a patient who takes the more gentle, nudging approach of health, what they will often hear from the doctor is, I wouldn't recommend that. I don't know if we have a lot of time here. You really need to get on that statin. You really need to have this stent. You really need to have the procedure because they're holding that existential fear over the patient that pushes them away from the gentler, longer sort of nudge interventions like nutrition that actually will fundamentally heal the patient and pushes them towards the intervention model. So long story short, I think, I think that patients unfortunately have been trained to be somewhat dependent on this system by design. And my goal is to really blow that up and help people realize that it's actually simpler than we think to be healthy. And every single person, I believe, has the knowledge and tools right now living at this time in human history to take control of their health. And they just really need a guidebook for that the healthcare system's not giving them.
And it seems like we need it more than ever.